Hi. Can you hear me? Okay. So hi everyone. Our culture group will be divided into two parts, and the first one is independent research. And because due to time constraints, my delivery may be a little bit hasty, but I'll do my best to shorten my pre into 7 minutes. So the title of my research is Women's Subaltern Nature Re-examined, Chinese Immigrant Woman's Image in Timothy Ma's Sour Sweets. Is a novel. And sorry for without the PowerPoint slides, I'll make my pre as clear and concise as possible. So it's about my research is about Ma's Sour Sweets, the novel, and because this is the multidisciplinary conference, I'll give a brief introduction of the author and the novel. So Ma was born in Hong Kong in 1950, and a British Chinese author who has a Chinese father and an English mother. When Ma was 10, he moved to England to live with his mother, and Ma speaks and writes Little Chinese, considers his novels to address matters of universal significance. Those larger issues are framed by issues that reflect his dual Chinese and European background. And now focusing on the novel, Sour Sweet is a 1982 novel. And the novel is about the tribulations of a Hong Kong Chinese immigrant and his initially reluctant wife as the family attempt to make a home for themselves in the 1960s London. And the novel was awarded the Hudson Prize and shortlisted for Booker Prize in fiction. So this novel presents the lives of the Chinese immigrants in England and brings about the discussion of cross-cultural experience, explores the identities constructed among the Chinese diaspora in 1960s London, and attempts to represent the intertwined identity of Chineseness and Englishness. My research question is, how is the identity of the Chinese diaspora, especially concerning women's diaspora, constructed in this novel? And here's the brief literature review. Previous scholars, they focus on Chinese diaspora, Confucianism, or family identity in this novel. For example, Tao Jiajun's essay on Confucian family identity, and another critics examine the diasporic identity and the claims of reality. However, they mainly focus on the male protagonist. And while I am interested in post-colonial feminism studies, and there is one essay particular draws my attention. It's Cecilia's essay, Chinese Eyes, Eurasian Eyes on Timothy Ma's novels. And she uses the theories of Stuart Hall, Gertrude Spivak, and Rachel examine the woman's subordination in chapter 3. However, my essay argues that even in Cecilia's essay, her essay failed to examine, the contrast between the two female characters, Lily and her elder sister May. And so here comes my thesis statement. While Sour Sweet persuasively explored the oppression of Chinese women in the patriarchal home culture through the characterization of female protagonist Lily Chen, the novel renders stereotypical image of the other, particularly Chinese immigrant woman, further deepened in the English-dominated, male-dominated society by catering to the Western gaze. Through analyzing and the characterization of Lily Chen and her sister May, as well as the close analysis of the text, the paper argues that by portraying Lily as different from other traditional Chinese women's features and all masculine traits, through a comparison with her sister May, the later transformed from traditional Chinese good woman to westernized, sexually open-minded immigrant. The novel might deepen the stereotype attached to the average third woman instead. So the methodology mainly includes female post-colonial feminism studies, and specifically Spivak's Can the Subaltern Speak, mentioning the context of colonial production. The subaltern has no history and cannot speak. The subaltern as female is even more deeply in shadow. And Mohanty's definition of objectification of third world women. So here comes the main body of my thesis. So the chapter 1 explores Lily's confinement to the role of traditional Chinese wife. In the novel, Lily is represented as the traditional miserable housewife in a patriarchal home culture, even if it's an immigrant family. So I'll just pick one particular detail, Lily's soup. So every night, Lily would prepare a very rich soup to her husband, who comes after a day of work. Even if her husband Chen has already had dinner in the restaurant, Lily would serve the soup, which is symbolized of the traditional wifely duties. However, when the failure of communication is present in this family, so Lily constantly asks her husband, "Did you enjoy that, husband? Did you enjoy my soup?" But even Chen did not enjoy the soup. Chen would grunt in a solid way, not wishing to hurt her feelings, but also careful not to let himself in for a bigger ball in the future. So we can see the failure of communication in the marriage represents a bigger failure of the Chinese immigrant family in 1960s London, which is criticized by Timothy Mall, as Timothy Mall is criticizing the traditional Chinese families' way of communication. And so the chapter 2 would explore May's resistance to the Chinese traditional femininity. So Lily has been raised as a tomboy in the patriarchal home culture because Lily's father always wants a boy to inherit his Chinese martial arts. However, her elder sister May has been brought up as a traditional female Chinese woman, like traditional Chinese traditional girlhood. And May has been taught how to become a woman, uncomplaining, compliant, dutiful, considerate, unselfish, within her limits, truthful, and honorable. And in their childhood, Lily's duty is to follow May home to protect her elder sister May, because Lily can do the martial art, the Chinese boxing. However, we can see that the two sisters grow up forming a very sharp contrast. In the end of the novel, May has become an unmarried pregnant woman, a total betrayal of the image of traditional Chinese good girl prototype. And May's choice to give birth with another man supports and symbolizes her denial of Lily's traditional Chinese wife. And we could see that this kind of independent womanhood symbolizes by May. It's celebrated by the author Timothy Mall, and Mall instead criticized the traditional Chinese wife represented by Lily Chen. However, such kind of contrast may fall into category termed by Mohanty as objectification, as it defines women primarily in terms of their object status, which is in the way they are affected or not affected by certain institutions and systems. As the image of third world woman, Mohanty observes that this has been stereotyped by public discourse as ignorant, poor, uneducated, traditional bound, domestic, family-oriented, victimized, represented by Lily Chen in the novel, in contrast to the self-representation of Western women as educated, as modern, as having control over their own bodies and sexualities and the freedom to make their own decisions, represented by Lily's rebel sister, May. And this finally comes to my conclusion. This kind of portrayal, this is kind of contrast, actually deepen the stereotype attached to the average third woman, instead formalize the orientationalized of the Chinese immigrant woman's images in this novel. And I hope I did not, I hope I fall into the time constraints, and this is the end of my praise. Sorry for a hasty delivery. Welcome the second group.
Thank you so much. Second group, are you ready?
Yeah. 上节可以用 share screen.
I'm sorry, I think we only see your partial. Okay, yeah, that works.
Yeah. Okay. So can you go to the first slide? The very first one. I think there is one in front of
Is
this.
it okay? I know.
Yeah. So this is
Okay.
our topic. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, maybe I'll just read the topic. So hi everyone, and I'm Wang Shihan, and today it's my great pleasure to present to all of you here. As everyone knows, ChatGPT is such a hot issue now, and when we are thrown by the productivity of it, we should also be aware of the ethics of such advanced AI technology. So in this short presentation, Shanjie and me will endeavor to combine the ethics of ChatGPT and the context of Chinese philosophy, and we will explore further into its policy implications in China. So firstly, it will be very helpful to start with the basics and common ethical issues of ChatGPT. Yeah, next slide, please. Are you going next slide?
You can try sharing this presentation with me, and I can try sharing it if that works. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, it works. Yes, so retrained by the large language model, ChatGPT has received some basic moral and ethical training. For example, ChatGPT will say things like, I have no emotion, consciousness, or personality, I'm just a tool to answer questions. However, rather than having a solid moral standard, ChatGPT has some lacunae in its ethical dimensions. Firstly, there is a risk that the database which it is pre-trained on may be ethically contaminated or poisoned, which then takes a process for the machine to reacquaint itself with the new ethical judgments. Besides, although ChatGPT has tried for the most part to maintain a rational approach to ethical practice, it gets into a state of ambiguity, dilemma when confronted with threats, discipline, or intimidation from malicious users. Secondly, as a large language model, ChatGPT also has its inherent vulnerabilities. And as such, it could be unethically exploited for discrimination, exclusion, misleading information, and information hazards. Discrimination can be manifested through social stereotypes and exclusionary norms, while reliability refers to the false, misleading, and outdated information provided by the machine to users. According to Zhou's research, one example of ChatGPT's vulnerability is its defect in multilingual understanding, which may imply a bias in multicultural understanding and a corresponding underrepresented societal group. Although ChatGPT has shown huge progress in eliminating such vulnerabilities, the internal drawbacks of large language models still require constant improvement and supervision. Lastly is the ethical concerns regarding ChatGPT's real-world applications, such as dishonest academic research and societal job losses. These are the most discussed ethical problems of ChatGPT. Next, I will pass on to my groupmate, Sanjie.
Okay. Thank you, Iris, and I will continue to introduce the ethic in the context of Chinese philosophy. And I will talk about this part in two aspects. The first is the characteristics of Chinese philosophy, and the next is the relationships between human and machine that fostered by Chinese philosophy. And let's start with the first part. Okay, the first part is about the characteristics of Chinese philosophy, and we all know as a country with a long history, China has a rich culture heritage, especially in philosophical area. One of the most intriguing aspects of Chinese philosophy is its view of the universe, which can be called the cosmological diagram, and it can be explained by three concepts: Dao, Yin Yang, and Wu Xing. The concept of Dao, or the way, is at the heart of Taoist philosophy. It refers to the natural order of the universe and the way things are supposed to be, and human beings must learn to live in harmony with this rhythm. Another key principle of Taoism is the Yin Yang theory, which is based on the idea that all things in the universe have two complementary and opposing aspects, Yin and Yang. Yin represents the dark and passive aspects of nature, while Yang represents the bright and active aspects. And these two opposing forces are in constant interaction with each other and must be in balance for the universe to function properly. The Wuxing theory is another important concept, which divides the natural world into 5 elements, and they are believed to be interconnected and interdependent. Wuxing is used to explain the natural cycles of the universe and the relationship between human beings and nature. We can know from the above that Chinese philosophy has a strong emphasis on balance. It not only creates theories to represent the universe, but also provides guidance for human behaviors. Each entity present within the universe is a part of a greater interconnected entity, and the actions and choices made by individuals can have a consequential impact upon the surrounding world. Now we know the characteristics of Chinese philosophy, it's time to rethink the human-machine relationships in the context of Chinese philosophy, and this includes 3 parts. From an ontological perspective, it's essential to acknowledge the essentiality of human beings while maintaining a critical approach. Taoist thoughts emphasize coexistence in a non-hostile state. In the context of AI training, it's crucial to consider the importance of AI's self-awareness with regard to its position in the universe and its purpose. Despite its great power, the fundamental question of its situation in the universe remains pertinent. And the second part is about human self-moral reflection and input in AI. Chinese philosophy put a lot of emphasis on having good personal character. They talk about practicing self-control and paying attention to the individual. And in the case of ChatGPT, one cool thing is that it can show when there's bias and unfairness in the text, and it could help people notice it and think about how to be better as a group. So basically, it's a tool that can make us more aware of our biases and the importance of looking at ourselves. From a perspective of value theory, we need to emphasize on mutability and immutability in human-machine relationship. Mutability means that all entities in the universe undergo constant and perpetual change. Immutability means behind the change, there is a fundamental principle that governs the rationality of the world. By acknowledging the first place of human welfare and the positive attitudes towards immutability, the development of AI can be aligned with human interests and ultimately contributes to the betterment of society. That's my part. I will pass to Iris to the third part, the policy implications.
Okay, so thank you, Shanjie. In this part, we will explore further into the real-world implications of our philosophical analysis. Next slide. China has developed a general inclusiveness and prudence policy, regulating and supervising new technologies. However, this policy leaves room for innovation, but also creates risks of ethics lagging behind technology. So to complement the potential risks, central government of China has issued the opinions on strengthening the ethical governance of science and technology in 2022. The opinions explicitly call for ethics to come first before technology. It means ethics logically precedes technology, and that ethics is involved in technology design and become a constitutive part of it. One example in our context is that we call for enhancing and transplanting the fundamental moral concepts of such as community and family bonds as an ethical principle in AI's deep learning. So practically regulating ethical issues in AI is always a difficult question, but philosophy will always navigate the direction for policies. So this will conclude our presentation. Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you so much for this great presentation. Are there any questions from audience? Ella, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm interested in like your perspectives in terms of, because I've like recently read a lot of news and commentaries, so I'm talking about how China's system and Chinese culture are really hard to promote invention of technologies such as AI, because of the strict regulations and also the existence of firewall. It's really hard to gather enough database to train the machine. So I was wondering, like, do you have a philosophical or cultural explanations for this, or do you think it is the system that mainly drives China's technological invention, maybe in machine learning field, lacking behind?
I have a few thoughts on this. Maybe Sandra can add something after me. And so for me personally, I think it's mainly the policy driving such lagging behind technology. Yeah, because originally we were also considering like the difference between China's technology and like the United States or Western world's technology. Is there any like ideological difference between let's making difference between these two kind of technology? But like later we tend to believe that it's mainly the Chinese authoritarian system, which is promoting, which is preventing the development of our country's technology, because like the firewalls and like the prohibition of ChatGPT in China is kind of mainly for policy reasons, but not because like Chinese philosophical is preventing usage of Western technology. Yeah, but I don't think Chinese. Yeah, so that's my opinion. I don't think Chinese philosophy is trying to prevent the development of technology. Instead, China's philosophy is quite open to development of technology, as we have presented in our research. Like China's philosophy, it accepts the opinions that humans does not count as the center of the universe. The universe is like all elements coming together, instead of like the Western, they tend to think that like individualism or like the humanity will comes first, like reason, which humanity which has a reason that will comes before every other species in the world. Yes, so I think China's philosophy is more open to new development in technologies instead of like preventing it. Yeah.